Looks like we are off and rolling, boys. Let me know if there's any issues with the sound. First ever stream here, so bear with me. Probably not going to be able to sit and talk to myself for 6 hours, but we'll do the best we can. If you're really asking who's who, feeling you don't know Phil very well, but that's okay. Phil is always hey guys. That's an homage to the way he has started his training videos forever, uh, even since Blue Fire Poker. It's going to be really interesting to see Chance's approach. He's obviously had the benefit of studying the past Galfond challenges, which is huge. And the only reason the betting odds really are what they are. Got to talk to MX a little bit about this, but that's a massive advantage and should not be understated. Interesting that we see Chance going for pot now on this texture, representing essentially queen anything. Um, Probably saying that he's turned to pair here. On table two, it's also going for pot out of position with the turn lead on the straight completing turn. Also brings in the flush. Now, this will be real interesting to see if he goes back to his three-quarter pot sizing on this texture as he has done previously, or oh my goodness, and we get the big raise from Phil on table one, um, really representing queens up with a straight blocker or better. This could be as thin as queen five with a three, um, when there's only one straight out here and the button has so few of them, and jamming here, and he did have the nuts. Unfortunate chop pot. Nobody likes a chop pot on this channel. We'll keep that for Poker Stars. Halo Power Rank. I am not playing enough against any of the top end European players to get PLO power rankings, unfortunately. The Rio staking deal is going well. Got a lot of activity on the site at first. It slowed down recently with all of the other tournament series going on other sites, but hopefully, if that ever slows back down, it will pick up again. The cash games on Rio would obviously love to see Rio take a larger market share, if possible. I don't know what the odds ended at. I think Phil was hovering around 4-1 for a while. It's going for the raise here on the flush completing river. Pretty much only doing this with this sizing with flushes. There could, the way this hand has played out, do this with a straight and a flush blocker. I would guess this early in the match. It's not the case, and instead he just uses the single King of Spades blocker for his raise. Seems pretty good. Unblocking most pairs. Um, this seems fine. Go straight. We'll be back in a second. Chance going with his 2/3 river sizing here. Again, still not sure what it means. Normally, a spot where you'd be going pot, this will be really useful. Wow. I am not sure how we ended up here. Gonna have to check this out real fast. how do we get to a spot where Chance raises flop? Very interesting line taken by Chance here with just the single overpair turns the flush draw, which actually makes this an okay check back. Um, Very interesting. Phil obviously snaps him off with a four on the river, about as high as range as he could expect to be here. Even has the five for a straight blocker just for good measure. I think that turn bet by Chance is probably good given the three in his hand without the three and turning the flush draw. I would lean a little bit more towards a check. Certainly don't want to get raised off any potential equity here, or even worse, make a flush in an inflated pot when our opponent could have boats already. Chance with the big turn lead gets called by Phil on table one. SPR of one going into the straight completing river. The open ender, the lower open ender got there. Queen Jack already obviously there. Flush is missed. We would expect to see Chance follow up here as some of his bluffs, his jack bluffs do have an eight in them and now river to straight and are good enough to value. His other ones were going to continue bluffing. Obviously, his jack, jack, queen, queen combos will continue. Or just his single queen combos will continue, and Phil is going to just snap it off. Uh, Phil does hit the jack eight. Interesting. Okay, so Phil calls with top pair. The um, bottom wrap on the turn with the nice king of diamonds blocker and rivers for his hand. What is essentially gin? A pretty standard call. Chance having a pretty mediocre bluff combo by the river there. Not a good river for him at all. Um, given given his hand, the queen blocker still having some value, but having a lot less value than it did on the turn, as you are going to get called by almost all lower straights. Phil snaps him off. Phil up to probably just under a two buy-in lead early going. He certainly plays a lot of online tournament poker. I don't know how much online cash games he's been playing. Nobody really knows with quarantine and everything that's going on. I haven't talked to him about it. I didn't know I was going to be doing this commentary, or I would have. I'll probably try to find a little bit of time to talk to him about it, and catch up on what he's been doing. To let you guys know. But as we have heard many times from Phil, he does pick up on timing tells. So let's hope normal and fit. And we have another huge pot on table two. Chance is now going for his very strangely signature 2/3 pot river on the. Uh, Play through this real fast. I missed a lot of this hand, mostly out of the way. Check, check, flop. Chance turns the set. Delayed C bets full pot. And puts it in for his very interesting river sizing that he is gravitated towards using. I'm not sure if this is going to just constantly be his thing. He's going to be going 2/3 on rivers that are on paired textures, in other spots where most people are betting pot with their value range, but something to keep an eye on. No, okay. I played I played one of the big mixes. Uh, we had a 200-400 mix game going one night, but the for certain reasons, I'm not in the biggest mix that's going on. It's moved over to Ivy's most or to Bellagio mostly now. They're playing a lot, but certain dynamics in there that will not allow me to play. AG and Jason Fish, thank you for follows. First ever Thallow stream. Probably not the last, given that they need somebody to do this tomorrow, and then we'll see how it goes the rest of the way. If we can get some good guest commentators in to join me, so I don't bang my head against a wall for this many hours. Might fire up a few more of these. Thousand in the middle on table 2. Double board pair river. Phil checks it. We've seen Chance go for a unusual 2/3 pot sizing as his consistent size on these textures on in position river bets recently. Not solver approved, but might be a strategy that he's come up with and implementing. I'd be very curious to see. And that is strange. This is a very similar texture run out and betting pattern that we've seen in the past where he's always gone 2/3. This is the first time we've seen him size down on this type of run out in position. The half pot. And Phil pounces on it, says, "This is not what you've been value betting with for your sizing. I think it's a tell." Goes for the immediate check raise. Be very interesting to see if Chance calls here and Phil is just on an air bluff, if he really was jumping on this because he feels it's an early sizing tell or if the hand warrants it. Table 1 going for the full pot value bet here. Chance in the tank. This is a terrible spot. Oh, and Chance jams for the extra 3,000. Not what you want to see if you are Mr. Galfond. Going to be pretty hard to fold for the extra 3,000. He might simply pay it off purely for information at this stage. I wouldn't say purely for information. Obviously, if he 100% knew he was dead, he would not pay it off. So Chance exploitatively sizing down on the river with quads induces the raise from Phil with the 4 and gets paid the maximum. Very interesting to see that Chance mixes up his river sizing there and had quads, something to keep an eye on. Did Phil have 9-4? Check. Can I pull it up? And popped up very quick. Oh, I can't pull it up, unfortunately, for one hand passed. He might have had 9-4. I saw the King 4 flash up. But oh, we've got our first 4 bet of the match. I do not have a horn. God, but do have a 4 bet. Usually the very first 4 bet is a bluff, so I expect Chance to have dust here. Arena Runner, thank you for the follow. Don't ask me why. It just sort of works out that way. I'm not sure. Nobody ever has it the first time they 4 bet. Chance probably with the Jack 10 8 6 flops a pair. No, I mean realistically he has aces here and is going to have to get it in, but it is weird that people seem to 4 bet for the first time with dust. Still going to have to call off with any sort of draw and pair. Does jam it in. Oh, interesting. Chance did show up with a pretty dusty Ace Jack 7-5 double suited. I would not recommend that line. In fact, We're going to have to use visions real quick because that seems fucking terrible. And I am too curious not to find out. At 100 big blinds. That was Ace Jack 7-5 double. Still getting the full double. Unsurprisingly, chance is correct. The 7-5 specifically does make it a 4-bet. Just weak enough. Not a play that I am doing, probably incorrectly. Chance is a much better heads up player than I am, and it clearly shows. Oh, it looks like we are going to have a reset. So Chance sitting out 200 bigs deep. Uh-oh. There's going to be no way for me to invert this. So they are going to be on opposite sides. That's fucking triggering. Correct. In a heads up environment, GTO, in a heads up rake free environment, GTO implements rake, or excuse me, implements limping. But it's very small EV differences between that and just an open fold strategy when balanced correctly. And an open fold strategy can lead towards some better exploitative spots. So Phil in general tends to go with just a pure open or fold strategy with no limps, despite that, where we've seen some other players mix in limping. The biggest issue with limping is just keeping it balanced enough as you get deeper into challenges like this and play a lot of hands, maintaining a balanced 10 to 15% limping strategy can be very challenging, especially to the point that it's balanced enough to actually gain the EV that it's supposed to generate the way a solver does. Most people feel that just doesn't happen. That you're actually giving away stuff by limping because it is so hard to balance. In regular cash games, you can do it a little bit easier because you don't have to worry about balance as much. But when you're going to play the same guy over potential 35,000 hands, and that guy happens to be one of the best exploitative players ever, staying balanced really, really starts to matter. So I'm actually a little bit surprised that he's implemented a limping strategy, despite the fact that it's solver recommended. I know if I was playing Phil, I would try to simplify the game tree as much as possible to stay balanced. He's just so good at picking up on things like that. Poker 41 Day, thank you for the follow. Still going with half pot here. Certainly could have straights. Probably the bottom of his value range. I can't imagine we're doing this with anything less than an 8 high straight. Even that's a touch thin for value in position. Now I think we probably have to bet our 8 high straights with any diamond, and then certainly all of our 9 high straights, even without a diamond. Still on the bluff and gets called by. Was that a set? Ouch. Very similar spot on table 2 as we just had on table 1. Bill saying, I have more 8s. Will Chance disagree strongly yet again and put in the raise? I would expect him to lean heavily towards raising the value portion of his range here rather than slow playing it after just doing it in a similar spot on table 1. It looks fishier to do it again. And sure enough, Here comes the raise. This hand is playing out almost identical to the one we saw 1 minute ago. Phil's small probes on these turn pairs being attacked heavily. Once again, we have no idea if this is just coincidence or not based on the hands. Phil could have turned a very reasonable semi bluffing hand, and Chance could just have an 8 again. Um, Simply have no way of knowing, but it looks very interesting when we see the same thing play out. Phil going for the call this time, and the snap check on the river absolutely could be slow playing here. Um, would not shock me, or could have some sort of flush straight combo draw, could just have a weak 8 that is now going to probably check call and try to hold on. Give your opponent a chance to bluff. Nope, it was Chance with the weaker 8. Phil just with top pair there. Chance getting in the raise on table 2, 449 board. Very interesting. Clearly just representing a 4. Point, and Chance is going to continue the story. Says, I have a 4. You probably have an overpair. I'm going to make you call down. What will Phil decide to do? Gringo Pokers, thank you for the follow. Phil not giving up. King on the river is extremely spicy. Phil absolutely has king in his range here. Certainly more likely to have ace combos, but king well represented makes this a little bit dicier for just a 4 to go for a third street of value. Um, you would still expect most boats to go for value, especially with this SPR. Still 9-4, 9s obviously are going to be betting here. Um, wow, and Phil not only with the aces, but with the 4 as well. Very interested to know what Chance had on that hand. Unfortunate that we do not get to see. I am super curious to know if he had a worse 4 or just went with the low frequency check raise, 2/3 pot turn bet as a bluff on a 0 draw board. Um, very interested. Phil getting sneaky, absolutely going for the snap check call on the river, trying to induce, does not get it, might have lost value by not jamming the turn with an SPR under 1 if Chance indeed did have a 4. But for anybody still here, you're gonna get a treat. This is gonna be the most valuable section of the broadcast. This is dating tips with Fallow. I would very highly recommend and would go as far as to say, in fact, it's just purely GTO to have your significant other or anybody that you're dating be involved in the food industry in some way. I've recently been seeing a girl who works at Yard House on the Strip in Vegas. The food she brings over is fantastic. I have 3 meals prepared for the day that she was able to bring back. I can just heat up and eat. It is absolutely tremendous. So that will end this segment of dating tips with Fallow. Key takeaway there: be involved with somebody who has quick access to food. Interesting to see Phil snap check the turn on a card that is good for his range here. He's going to not only pick up a lot of 2 pairs or at least King X, but a number of large draws are going to come in on this turn. Broadway wraps, pairs plus open enders, um, gutters plus flushes, many different combo draws coming in for the 3-better here on the King. Chance going for it, representing King Queen plus or one of those massive draws. Kakaze, I am a little surprised. Yes. Wow, what a interesting river card. Now we, especially with this SBR, SPR of 0.5, we are going to see a lot of hands obligated to get it in here, with neither player going to give the other one credit for a flush based on the way. Are we good? We should be back. Yeah, just like for a second. And Phil, oh my goodness, shocked to see Phil not put in the bet with the flush there with the SPR 0.5. I would go so far as to say that is a mistake. Obviously, he's going to know better than I and has his reasons for it. Oh, and that hand play too fast to get replay. Oh, that is a real tragedy. Uh, Phil rivering the nut flush on the paired board absolutely can get called by many worse hands, and a better hand is always betting. Clearly checking to try to induce there, but surprised to see it. I think that hand goes in our betting range a lot with that SPR. That is very surprising. I would expect smaller flushes to check call there to try to induce some like king queen with the ace of spades bluffs type hands, but I would expect the nut flush there to bet at a very high frequency. I wonder, do I have clips available? Is anybody able to clip that hand? That's a hand that I would want to specifically ask him about. I would never check a nut flush there. Thinking that I can get called by worse and better is never checking back. We're never saving money. We can't check fold. Chance in the tank here. Be pretty interesting to see if somehow he finds a raise after tanking this long. Would doubt it. Timing would be off pretty bad here. He's probably just thinking about making a thin call, likely with some sort of jack. He does go for the long tank raise. Now, most players tend to shy away from this tremendously, thinking it's a timing tell. Um, in fact, even in some videos that you watch of people, they say that their chance to raise is gone. Very unusual to tank raise into your time bank on a bluff. That's the general consensus is that these lean towards value, um, but certainly you can find ways to intentionally bet balance that and even sometimes use it as an exploit. It is very unusual. You do not see time bank tank river raises like this very often. Kakazi the Rock is a extra blind. It's essentially like a mandatory straddle placed by the previous winner of the pot. So a 5-5 game with a rock becomes 5-5-10. So really in the tank here, um, I'm sure did not expect to get tank check raised. Doesn't know what it means. Hasn't played with chance that much. I have no idea what it means. Most people would be very confused in this spot. It's not something that you see happen online a lot. So if you are a high stakes online regular like Phil is, you're just not used to this. It was a boat. Um, Interesting. So he may have actually been deep in thought, thinking, and this may not have been. This may have been a genuine timing scenario where he was simply thinking, "Is this boat good enough to raise large for value with over the small bet?" I think against the blocker size bet, you do have to raise the majority of your boats. Obviously, this is the worst one, or second worst that you're going to have here. Very interesting to see the timing in the hand he shows up with. So far, Chance has had it a lot when he has raised on the river. In fact, I think we've only seen one bluff get caught. They are resetting stacks. Yes, Chance is resetting um, at 200 BBs effective. Another big pot on table one, SPR just over one here already on the turn. Any bet here is going to be pretty committal. Um, This had to be 3-bet pot, right? You know what? Don't. We think Phil is up small, although it's the gap is closing. It could be very close to even by now. 4-bet pot on table 2, and Phil jams on table 1. So we're going to have some result affecting pots here. We have a jam on table 1 for Phil and gets the fold, claws back a decent pot there. On table 2, we have Phil facing the 4-bet. S What's the big blinds here? We have about 140 big blinds effective, 135 big blinds effective here. Um, Makes the call, going to have a SPR of 2 on the monotone flop. This is essentially a coin flip. Certainly, your 4-better is going to have more suited higher cards. However, your 3-bet caller is also going to have more middle suited cards, and obviously is going to be the only one with straights on this texture. Well, certainly there's some ace ace and some king king double suited 5-6 combos, but for the most part, the straights are all represented in the 3-bet callers range here. Um, and the 4-better is really just gonna be in a world of hurt. If neither player has a flush, this should probably go bet fold. With Phil taking it down, it's going to be almost impossible for the 3-better, excuse me, the pre-flop 4-better to continue to defend here. But it can be scary to barrel. It can be scary to barrel. You're obviously going to get snap called by any flush, and Chance has them in his range. Phil's sizing on the turn is very interesting. Not something we see a lot of people do. Um, Putting maximum pressure on your opponent to find the correct defense frequency in a very tricky spot. With an SPR of just over 1, you would see most people get it in here. Um, People often get scared of betting that size and pricing in sets, but on a board like this, where it's 9 high on the turn, you don't have to worry about too many sets and out of position filling up. Now, here with 2 calls and straights and sets so underrepresented in Chance's range, it really does seem like we're facing a flush. Without the nut flush, I would be very scared of betting this. The lack of a snap call here is surprising. I was expecting this to go bet snap call. I don't think we can fold a flush if played this way as Chance. I think we just have to pay off with this sort of SPR, and it's hard to see what else we get to the river with. Um, it's really hard to find enough hands here that we can fold river played this way. Usually, we're calling down to induce. Um, hmm. I'm actually not sure what we get to call turn and fold here. There really is not a lot. It would generally be smaller flushes. He could be in the very unfortunate situation of having something like ace ace with a flush, excuse me, with a straight draw or a straight, with either flopped a straight and the ace of diamonds, or now rivered the straight with the ace of diamonds. Wow, absolutely heroes up there. That is. Oh no, he sat out. We don't get to see it. Basically, coming to the conclusion that Phil is only betting the nut flush or second nut flush and not anything like a small flush or a rivered straight with a good flush blocker. Um, Certainly quite the call. It's the river call is probably much easier than the turn call. Um, the turn call is quite something, knowing that you're going to have to just buckle down on the river. Phil leading flop with no pair, no draw, just the tens, and barreling off with no diamond. Also very interesting. I would put that very comfortably in the not solver approved category, and don't try this at home. Does continue betting the 6 of clubs. Flush completing 6 of clubs. Turn. We see chance in the tank here. He has tank raised on a couple of occasions. Just goes for the call this time. Not sure what that means. Itzy, 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you for the follow. Phil going for full pot, max value on the river, representing a good flush, saying, I have it. Please call me with your straights. Full pot sizing here would be any decent flush. And he does indeed have the nuts, the actual stone cold nuts. Not sure what chance called with, but Phil gets max value. Phil adjusts, and we see some extreme shit talking here between the players. That is, guys, please do not in your games talk shit like this. It's very unprofessional. These are two role models. We don't like to see things like this going back and forth at the table. But um, you know, if you have to, and you really do want to needle your opponent, there are strategies. For those of you who don't know, WSOP has eliminated chat. Everything shows up as the ellipses, but we can interpret what was said there. And basically, Chance told Phil that he's old and washed up and is going to get smoked over the next 34,000 hands. And Phil basically told him to sit the fuck down and pay attention as I school you. That's the clear interpretation of what we had here. I'm not really sure how you could read it any other way. Meanwhile, 6,000 in the middle on table 2. Oh, that's it. So, but see, on table 1, they're really nice and polite. This is just Chance saying, hey, this has been fun. And Phil saying, yeah, I'm glad we got to do this. So that's interesting on the different tables. They really took different approaches to the chat, but not sure the reason for that. I have been streaming, holy shit, for 5.5 hours somehow. Chance winning a big one. Getting the showdown with a boat. I'm not entirely sure, but I will definitely get some more info for you guys. Get a layup run once Nick is going to help me with the layup a little bit. Not 100% sure why Run It Once channel isn't streaming it. They don't have any staff directly in Vegas, and this has to be streamed from Vegas or New Jersey. No, there's almost never high stake. There's no high stakes PLO action in the library. This is the WSOP lobby. It is dead. There's a 3-6 going. Very hard to get action. Everybody bum hunts, and it's very tough. Games don't last that long when they do pop up. People will button you. It's just not great. Not a well managed site. Not a good player pool. But we would all love for this to be on Run It Once. Can someone join at these tables? No, this is a heads up challenge. This is heads up only. This is a very they made these tables for these guys. Rebet pot here by Phil. I don't think we've seen a 4-bet from Phil yet today, which that is a little bit strange. We've only seen, I believe, two or three four bets in general. Chance going with another unusual river raise given the line, purely representing good boats here. Still going with the half pot C bet on a very favorable texture. Interesting to see that he is betting half pot on the double Broadway rainbow textures and third pot on the single Broadway two-tone textures. I have to keep an eye and see if that continues. Normally wouldn't make that specific adjustment on those different textures, especially like the King 9-6 board, but I'll have to see. Phil really in the tank, facing yet another check raise here after full potting the river. This is just absolutely representing pure strength. Chance going with the small bet on the the middle pair turn card. Um, Again, not a play that's going to quote unquote work very often since it's going to get defended by most hands. And turns out they it up. He was trying to get value from worst kings. Seems absolutely fine. Wow, and Chance flops the boat and gets paid off with the full pot check raise. Very interesting. Full pot check raise and had the 8 blocked as well. So I would guess Phil had a straight here just based on the blockers. I was expecting them to take a couple-minute break with an hour left, but they did not. So I am probably going to have to take a few minutes here. Yeah, I will be right back after see how table 2 plays out. This is an interesting line. Phil has not been taking these texture changing rivers and bluffing so far today. Curious to see if he was going to do it here, but won't really get the chance. Now his very obvious bluff raise candidates as well as value raise are pretty clearly defined here. Not a lot of room for creativity. Does go with the raise, gets snap called, has it. Whatever it is, he has it. No idea what Chance had. Chance snap called, but Phil probably getting away with a nice little cooler there. Uh, Very nice hand for Phil. It's almost a buy-in back there, and I will be right back. It looks like they are done. I'm going to need to not 100% sure. I will double check real quick, but I believe that's a wrap for the day. Boys, I think that is it. I think we're going to safely sign off. Thank you to everybody who stopped by. Looks like Umba 30 with the last follow. If you haven't followed, I should be doing at least a few more of these, including tomorrow. We're going to set it up with a better layout for sure. I'm going to talk to both Phil and Chance sometime later this evening after they've gotten a bit of a break. Find out some more details, especially from Chance on what he's been doing in his prep, etc. So I'll have a little bit more insight into that. Yeah, could run it back tomorrow and might be able to get somebody to hop in and join me if I figure out this whole setup thing. All right, guys. I think I'm fairly confident Phil's not coming back, so I'm going to head out.